Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and Avatar 2, Way of Water. The film that no one asked for, no one probably really cares about, has a budget the size of Amy Schumer's ego, and is destined to become yet another franchise that is already losing steam and will continue to lose steam, much like the MCU, much like Star Wars, much like James Bond. Only this time, it did it with its first film, and somehow they're continuing 13 years later. Well, the weekend is all but over, with it being Sunday night, and the box office results are in and not altogether what is expected. Let's go over this article from Giant Freaking Robot, who is honestly a garbage outlet, but they might be onto something here. I've not read this. I wanted to go through it together with you guys first, and for all I know, I could be surprised. But with everything I'm hearing, I doubt it. Avatar 2's first box office results are in and unexpected. Avatar 2 debuted with $53 million and could only make around $150 million in its opening weekend. That's pretty low, considering James Cameron himself said that it would have to make $1.5 to $2 billion just to break even. $150 million in its opening weekend? Ugh. I mean, I'm sure that's only domestic. That's going to obviously be a much, much larger number with the worldwide box office. But with such a low domestic weekend, how much can we really hope for? Well, I hope for nothing. I think this movie was a mistake, and I think James Cameron doing movies, after Titanic, is a mistake. That was like his last good one, let's be real. But let's read through here. Avatar 2 looks to be financially underperforming at the box office despite its huge budget, much to the chagrin of visionary director James Cameron, who refused to attend the premiere himself. Really? He refused to attend his own premiere? I mean, maybe that's normal for him, I don't know, but if I remember right, Titanic was the last film he did before Avatar. He had a 12-year break. Then he did a 13-year break between Avatar and Avatar 2. So maybe he's never gone to his own premieres. Maybe this is the first time. I don't know. But that does seem strange. You would think if you're proud of this, if this is your baby, if you're wanting it to be a 4, 5, 6 franchise film, you go to your own premiere. But that's neither here nor there. The film's projections suggested the film may underperform against its absurd billion-dollar price tag requirement set by Cameron himself, leaving the future of the franchise in doubt. According to Deadline, the film grossed only $53 million on opening day. Well, in all fairness, I don't think it calls the franchise into question. Yes, the price tag was huge. The budget was bananas. But if everything I heard is correct, they actually filmed 2, 3, and 4 all at the same time. Now, obviously, 3 and 4 aren't finished yet. There's so much technical work on the back end to do. All that CGI, all the mocap. A cornucopia of immense work needs to be done on computers for these movies. So while the second one is out, we might not even see the third and fourth for 3 to 4 years, 2 to 3 at the minimum. And that's honestly also enough time in between to make sure franchise fatigue doesn't set in, unlike what happens with Star Wars and the MCU. That being said, even if the $1 billion lumps all 3 of those filmings together, yeah, it's still a pretty abysmal opening day and opening weekend. But do I think they're going to can the franchise outright? No, because 3 and 4 have already been filmed. Disney's previous holiday release, Spider-Man No Way Home, which I've said before and I will continue to say, overrated, fine at best, mediocre is probably the most accurate, grossed $121.9 million on opening day. For reference, setting records as the second largest box office smash of all time, following only another Disney film, Avengers Endgame. James Cameron made public comments regarding Avatar 2's need to outperform those films in order to make its money back, while also lamenting that Avatar series would outperform Marvel films if there were an equal number of installments in each property. No, it wouldn't. Look, Marvel is in a very unique position that even though they suck right now, they're going to continue to make money because A, they've been doing it for 10 years, and B, normies eat that shit up. Avatar just doesn't have that sort of staying power, especially because it's not based off a previously existing franchise. With Marvel, you have almost 100 years worth of stories to draw on, which means almost 100 years worth of fans to draw in. With a brand new IP like Avatar, You just don't have that. Even if you had the same amount of films, you would have never made it to that amount of films because, well, the boat would have sunk long before then with diminishing returns. While the film may continue to gross a significant portion of its budget back overseas, there's no way of knowing which effect this will have on planned sequels. Well, yes, there is. Since the sequels, like I said before, were filmed already, we just haven't put the computer stuff into it, they're gonna come out. I mean, I suppose they could do what Zaslav did with DC and just straight up cancel finished films like he did with Batgirl. But I don't see Disney doing that. Disney, they didn't even cancel Strange Worlds. They just let it sit and linger with no advertising to die on its own a slow and painful death. So, no, Disney's not canceling the sequels. Deadline is also quick to point out that films with huge box office openings are often doomed to have a steep drop in following showings, noting that No Way Home nosedived by 68% in the second weekend, meaning Avatar 2 could make its money back after all, just slowly over the course of multiple weekends. Avatar 2 still outperformed its predecessor as the first groundbreaking installment in the Avatar franchise, netted $27 million on opening day. Now, of course, that was $27 million in 2009 dollars, and a cinema landscape that was significantly different than the one we're in now. Yeah, exactly. You have to adjust that for inflation, and I bet $27 million then is pretty close to what it's making now, the $59 million or whatever it said it was. Also, yes, it could, over weeks and weeks and weeks, generate what it needs to. I mean, that's what Top Gun Maverick did, and Top Gun Maverick's a sequel that has even longer between installments. I mean, the original Top Gun was an 80s film. Top Gun Maverick came out and just blew everyone's expectations financially. Could this do the same? Yeah, especially since it's a Cameron film. James Cameron, he's like, or at least used to be like, Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese. His films were events. They are just, once they're in theaters, set to stay there for lengths of time. I would not be surprised if Avatar 2 is still in theaters in March. So, yeah, we could very well see it hitting its budget back. Top Gun did it, and Top Gun was literally the same sort of scenario. It stayed in theaters for, I think, 5 months or something absurd like that. I'm not going to say we won't see that out of Avatar. I am going to say we are going to have diminishing returns with this franchise, since it's just not unique or original enough. You can only wow people with special effects so many times, especially with special effects being in a computer as opposed to, practical effects. I think people are finally opening up their minds and pining for the old days of practical effects that all but vanished after the 90s, maybe the earlier 2000s. I've been in that camp for the better part of a decade. So if other people are wanting to catch up to that mentality, you're not going to catch me being a hipster and being, I asked for practical effects before it was cool. No, this is one of the things I want people to jump on my ship for. Like, by all means, let's set a sail course to a place that has actual practical effects. And if this ship sinks, it's not going to be a CGI ship, but a real damn ship. Let's continue. Despite Avatar 2's underperforming box office numbers, the visual spectacle does seem to be drawing a crowd, as many theaters are sold out of tickets, some only having seats remaining at midnight shows. Perhaps some of the blame rests on the film's runtime. Good, I'm glad they're covering this, because that's what I was going to say. Which sits more than 3 hours, giving theaters limited availability for multiple back-to-back showings. In addition to these figures, most audiences want to see the film in premium formats, such as ScreenX, MX4D, and PLF 3D. In order to achieve the highest quality viewing experience possible. And I can understand that. I remember what made me fall out of love with Avatar, because when I saw the original back in theaters in 2009, I was in high school, and I was just starting to bud into the film critic and connoisseur that I am today. Now, I am a massive film fan. Trivia, knowledge, just boatloads and boatloads. I've seen great movies, I've seen awful movies, I'll pick movies apart, I'll raise them up. And Avatar to me, when I was still young and not quite as informed, was amazing. It was incredible. What ruined it was, honestly, a drive to St. Louis, Missouri one time. It was a several-hour drive. I was riding in the back seat, my father was driving, and me and my sister had one of those portable DVD players. We had Avatar, and we popped it on. And it just didn't hold up. When you don't have the giant, beautiful screen showing off all the effects, the movie's kind of boring. I would have rather sat and looked out the window during the drive and just paid attention to the landscape than I did this Pocahontas story, Dances with Wolves in Space. Like, I know that's what everyone says about it, but yeah, I learned that very early. This wasn't a several years later came to the realization and hopped on the bandwagon. It was when it came out on DVD. Now, granted, this is before Blu-ray, this is before, I mean, if you remember HD, DVD, or if it wasn't before that time, it was early on in that life cycle, and, you know, my family did not have that sort of technology. But the point is, I don't see this movie being any different. From everything I've heard, it is a step up over the original story-wise, but still nothing spectacular. People will come for effects, but they stay for story, and if you burn them on a story twice in a row, there probably won't be a third time. I kind of expect Avatar 3 to flop. They say, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. I think people are starting to say, shame on me, and they're going to remember that when the third one comes out. People are finally realizing it for the Marvel films, and this is only a ballooned budget version of that. In that way, it seems like James Cameron can almost be grateful for the dip in sales, as he may have made Avatar 2 such a spectacle that regular theater experiences just don't cut it. In addition, The Way of Water's opening reviews and social media discussions seem to be overwhelmingly positive, providing some real-time immediate feedback and overall quality of the film beyond the spectacle. That is true. Like I said, everything I've heard, minus from a few of the harshest critics, have been relatively positive. But they were also relatively positive at the time it came out. Only after the dust settled did we start to think, ooh, that movie wasn't so great. I'm wondering if the same thing will happen here. Even if the movie fails to make its money back on opening weekend, an art piece of this magnitude could continue to be financially lucrative for years to come. Avatar 2 may be a cautionary tale not unlike Icarus. Did James Cameron fly too close to the sun when he set out to make a film with advanced technology 13 years in the making? Only time will tell. The Way of Water is available in theaters now, if you can manage to snag a ticket. So, yeah, that's kind of what we get from Giant Freaking Robot, and it's about what I expected. The numbers altogether aren't awful, but they do leave a lot to be desired. Kind of like going to your favorite restaurant and having a bad meal. Yeah, it's your favorite restaurant, but that steak just wasn't as good as I'm used to. And it leaves you to wonder, is the restaurant quality going downhill? Or did you just have a one-off bad experience? Now you have a decision to make when it comes to going back to that restaurant. Do you want to go there again, or try the new hip local Cajun joint that just opened up down the street? A lot of people might want to try the Cajun joint if they had an experience similar to yours, especially if there's internet feedback telling them the same thing, only affirming their beliefs. But we also don't know what the future for cinema holds. Fans do seem to be getting really burnt out on franchise fatigue, such as, the MCU, Star Wars, I keep saying it, and without new and original IPs in Hollywood, Avatar might be the best of a bad situation. Maybe they'd rather see Avatar 3 than Thor 300. So, that's about where we're at. Me personally, I advocate for, and will continue to advocate for, more original, non-franchise films, not these summer blockbuster popcorn CGI fests, but things like Barbarian or The Northman, things that are fantastic films in their own right, but also don't need to ever have sequels, and we can just remember them for the individual glorious films they were. Again, I recently watched Weird, the Al Yankovic story. I wish that had been released in theaters. That would have been a fantastic theater film. I mean, it was like a comedic version of Rocket Man. I saw that in theaters. It's been one of my favorite theater experiences probably of my life. Same with A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the Tom Hanks film where he plays Mr. Rogers. I, to this day, have memories of seeing that in theaters just a few years ago thinking, wow, remember when films were like this? Because it was just in the middle of this CGI Marvel sludge fest. I long for that. I hope you guys too. If you do, like, comment, subscribe, tell me all about your thoughts on the film industry as a whole, and please, please do that subscribe thing I keep harping about, because I am really trying to grow this channel, and it'd mean a lot to me. Also, follow me on Twitter at BoltTheWord, because this has been Words of Paradise.